Building, painting and books. This is my topic. I am Sudhanya Gupta. Welcome to my channel. The Iron Pillar of Mahruli, Delhi, as a remarkable example of the skill of Indian craftsperson. It is made on 7.2 m height iron and weighs over 3 tons. It was made about 1500 years ago. We know the date because there is an inscription to the pillar mentioning the ruler named Chandra, who probably belonged to the Gupta dynasties. Chapter number 10, you can see that is amazing fact. The pillar has not rested in all these years. Building in brick and stone. The skill of our crafts persons has also apparent the buildings they survive, such as the stoops or stupa. The word stupa means the mound, while there are the several kinds of the stupas rounded, the tail big and small. These were certain common features of the generally there is a small box placed in the center heart of the stupa. This is contain bodily remains for the Buddha or his followers or things they used, as well as the precious stones and coins. This box is known as the relic casket, was covered with earth. Later, the layer of the mud brick and baked brick was added to top, and then the dome-like the structure is sometimes covered with the carved stone style. Often a path known as the Pradikshina path was laid around in stupa. This was surrounded with railings. Entrance to the path was through gateways. Devotees walked around the stupa in a clockwise direction as a mark of devotion. Both railings and gateways of the often decorated with the sculpture. This was the place where a magnificent stupa once excited. Many of the stone carvings of the decorated stupa were made about 2000 years ago. Other buildings were hollowed or rocked to make artificial caves. From this were very elaborately decorated with sculptures and painted walls. Some of the earliest Hindu temples were also built at the same deities. Some Vishnu, Shiva, Durga are worshipped in these shrines. This is the most important part of the temple was the room known about the Garbhagriha, where the image of the chief deity was placed. It was here that priests performed religious rituals and devotees offered worship to the deity. Often at the Bhitargaon, the town known as the Shikara was built atop of the Garbhagriha to mark this out of the sacred place. Building shikaras required carefully planning. Most temples also had space to known as the mandapa. It was hall where people could assemble. How were stupas and temples built? There were several stages to building stupa or temple. Usually king and queens decided to building this as the expensive affair. First, good quality stone had to find quarry and transported of the place that was often carefully chosen the new building. Here, this is the rough blocks of the stone and the shaped and curved into the pillars. The ant panels, walls, flooring and ceilings. Kings and queens probably spent money from their treasury to pay the craftsperson who worked in the build this splendid structure. Besides this, devotees came to visit the temple in stupa, then often brought gifts which were used to decorate buildings. For examples, the associated ivory workers paid for the beautiful gateways in Sanchi. Among the other spade decorations were merchants, farmers, garland makers, perfumers, smiths, and the hundreds of the men and women who are known only their names, which were inscribed in pillars, railing, and walls. So when we got the chance to visit this building, remember how several hundred years people probably worked to construct and decorate planning. This is the place of the several caves to the hollowing of the hills to overcome the centuries. Most of these were monasteries to Buddhist monk, and some of this the decorated painting. There is some examples. As the caves of the dark inside, the most of this painting has done light torches, the colors which is the white over the 1500 years were made the plants and the minerals. The artist who created these splendid works are remaining unknown. In the world of books, some of the best known epics of the written during the time. Epics are grand, long composition about heroic men and women and including stories about gods. The famous Tamil epic, the Shalapadikaram, was composed by the poet named Ilango around 1800 years ago. It is the story of the merchant named Kovalan who lived in the Puhar and fell in love with the courtesan named Madhavi, neglecting his wife Kannagi. Later, he and Kannagi left Puhar to went to Madura, where he was wrongly accused of theft by the court jewelry and the Pandya king. The king sentenced Kovalan to death. Kannagi, who still loved him, was full of grief and anger at this injustice and destroyed the entire city of Madurai. The description of Shalipadikaram. Here, how to poet describe the Kannagi's grave. O, o witness of my grief, you cannot console me. Is it right that your body, fairer than pure gold, lies unwashed where in the dust? Is it just that in the red glow of the twilight, your handsome chest, firm with a flower wreath, lays thrown down to the bare earth, while I remain alone, helpless and abandoned to disappear. Is there no God? Is there no God in this country? Can there be God in a land where the sword of king as used to murder of the innocent strangers? Is there no God? No God. Another Tamil epic, the Mani Me Khalai, was composed by Sitarana around 1400 years ago. This describes the story of a daughter of Kovalan and Madhvi. This beautiful composition is lost to the scholar many centuries. Still, their manuscripts were rediscovered about the 100 years ago. Recording and preserving old story. A number of the Hindu religion stories that were circulation circulation earlier were written down around the same time. This includes Puranas. Puranas literally mean old. The Puranas contain story about the god and goddesses. such as Vishnu, Shiva, Durga, or Parvati. They also contain the details of the how were be the worship. Beside this, accounts about the certain of the world about the king. The Puranas were written a simple Sanskrit verse and were meant to be heard by everybody, including women and Shudras, who were not allowed to study the Vedas, and they were probably recited the temples by priests, and people came to listen to them. Two Sanskrit epics, Mahabharata and Ramayana, being popular for a very long time. Some of you may be familiar with this story. The Mahabharata is about war fought between the Kauravas and Pandavas, who were cousins. And this is where to gain control the throne of the Kurus and their capital Hastinapur. The story it was a old one, but the written down form which we know that today about 1500 years ago both Puranas and Mahabharata are supposed to be being compiled by Vaishya. The compiled by Vaishya or Vash. The Bhagavad Gita is known about you learned in chapter number 9 was also included in Mahabharata. The Ramayana is about Rama, the prince of Koshala, who was sent to exile. His wife Sita was abducted by king of Lanka named Ravana. The Rama had to fight battle to get her back. He won and returned to Ajodhya, the capital of Kosala. After his victory, like Mahabharata, this was old story that is now written down. Valmiki is recognized as the author of the Sanskrit Ramayana. Writing books on science. This is also the time of Aryabhatta, the mathematician, the astronomer, wrote a book Sanskrit known as Aryabhatyam. He stated that day and night were caused by the rotation of the earth on the axis. Even though it seems as if the sun is rising and setting every day, he developed the scientific explanation for eclipses as well. He also found to way calculating the circumferences of the circle, which is nearly too accurate as the formula we use today. The Barahamihir, Brahmagupta, Bhaskaracharya were the other mathematician and astronomer who made the several discoveries. Try and find out more about zero and Ayurveda. While numerals have been used earlier, mathematicians in India now invented the spatial symbol of zero or shunya. This system is counted the adapted the Arabs were spread to Europe to continuous of this uses through the world. Ayurveda is the well-known system of the health science of the developed in ancient India. The two famous practitioners of Ayurveda in ancient India is Charaka and Sushruta. The Charak Shanhita written by Charak, remarkable book of medicine in his treatise Sushruta Shamhita. Sushruta speaks about the elaborate surgical procedure. So that's all for now. Thank you so much and please keep watching and please subscribe my channel. Till then, have a good day.